I'm going to take a couple minutes and talk about heavy metals, and I'm going to talk fast because I was asked to do this in under 5 minutes. And with 16 years of research and really understanding how pervasive heavy metals are, this is going to take a long time, but we're going to try to go quick so you get a really good understanding of the issues with heavy metals, which primary heavy metals are the baddest boys on the block, so as not to go too in depth, and why the juice cleanse, the liver cleanse, the kidney cleanse, the GI cleanse that you might think are good detoxes are nowhere near what you need to do. So first, what are heavy metals? Heavy metals are, when we talk heavy metals, they are the pervasive damaging metals like mercury, cadmium, arsenic, lead, aluminum, cesium, strontium, gadolinium, the guys you can see behind me. Those are what we're going to refer to as heavy metals. The one you see with the asterisks here on my right, mercury, is the worst neurotoxin known to man. And this is important because what science has shown and what most of the data published on heavy metals has shown is that mercury not only is the worst neurotoxin known, it's probably the most toxic metal that is in our environment that damage us most heavily. And we'll look at that here in a second. But it also makes all of these other metals worse. So it also shuts off your body's ability to produce glutathione, which is our natural detoxing antioxidant. It's our master antioxidant, and it shuts off methylation. Well, methylation is your body's natural process for detoxifying toxins. So mercury alone makes everything else worse, the worst neurotoxin known to man, and it shuts off your body's ability to get it out. Here's the worst part. We're all mercury toxic. So 30% of the mercury that's in your mom or was in your mom was pushed into you when you were in the womb. And the Environmental Working Group, as of about 15 years ago, continues to find over 200 chemicals, toxins, pollutants, carcinogens, heavy metals, and such in cord blood of infants born over the last 15 years. So they're highly pervasive. They're in you from conception. And then we have exposure in the water you're drinking, the air you're breathing because of aluminum and other metals that are in the air from chemtrails and such that are continually sprayed. You have inoculations that have adjuvants like mercury and aluminum in them. So they're being injected into you and into your kids. And we're going to look at some of that really quickly. So like I said, these heavy metals don't stay in your bloodstream. They don't just go into your kidneys and liver and stay in those areas. So you can do a kidney or liver detox over a couple of days and get rid of them. Here's a couple key things. Mercury, neurotoxin. Also hormone disruptor. It will mimic estrogen. So it blocks estrogen binding sites. And a lot of these heavy metals will mimic other essential metals like calcium, magnesium, potassium, and such. So they block the good guys from getting where they need to go. So your mineral deficiencies and your issues with bodily functions aren't due to the fact that you can't assimilate nutrients or you're not getting them in. The problem is you're completely polluted, and the heavy metals and toxins that are in your system are overriding your body's ability to function properly. So the one thing that you can do to get well is get this stuff out, but get it out of your body in the areas that it's stored and sequestered. So mercury, aluminum, and lead, neurotoxin. Lead loves bone, so does strontium. So let me go down my list here. Lead and strontium in bone. So strontium 90 is found in, what is it called? I'm having a break. Nuclear reactions. So with the Fukushima meltdown, with the Chernobyl meltdown, and the blowout that those had, they're in the environment, they're in the water supply, they're in us. Cesium-137, which is also from Fukushima and Chernobyl, loves cardiac tissue. So you have these metals that don't just stay in your bloodstream. Once you're exposed to them, they don't end up in a couple organs. They're everywhere, and they're highly pervasive. So let's do two things. I want you to look at two slides here real quick that are going to touch on some things. And we're going to look at what mercury does, because like I said, mercury is the worst neurotoxin known to man. So let's look at some of the organ systems that mercury is known to disrupt. So you have your central nervous system, your immune system, your endocrine system, your gastrointestinal system, your cardiovascular system, your neurological system, psychological systems, and reproductive systems. they will disrupt all of them. But if you don't believe me, right, because I'm just a guy talking, I've done this for 16 years. I own a company that's focused on detoxification because of the science that we've done. Don't believe me, believe the research. So I want you to look at one other thing. And this is done by the great Dr. Dory Nerbo. And this is, as you can see, a work in progress. This is not complete yet. This is going to freak you out. So when we look at specific issues and health conditions and how heavy metals correspond to some of these conditions, let's go through these really quickly because I've got a short period of time and I want you to understand this. So the table of contents, we look at autism, right? So we got 2 pages, 3 pages, 3.5 pages so far of data showing that high levels of mercury and aluminum are correlated to kids in the autism spectrum. Bone health. This is a key component. Like I said, lead and strontium are stored in bone. One of the big problems for women over 50 that they hear with osteoporosis, because you start leaching calcium and vitamin D in bone. That's actually not true. What happens is up to the age of 50, lead is stored in bone. After the age of 50, that lead starts to leave. It starts to leach back out of the bone, which creates osteoporosis because the bones become brittle because the lead that was stored in there is no longer there, and you don't have any other calcium or vitamin D to recalcify that bone. That's where the brittleness comes in. So you can see some of these things for data on heavy metals. We don't have to talk much about cancer because, as you've heard, you've probably learned that about 90% of all cancer cases are environmental in nature, and it's environmental toxins that are causing them. So you can look at cancer data. And we can scroll through some of these really slow if you want, so you can read them all. Don't think you're going to read them all. Lots of data. So cardiovascular disease, right? Number 1 or number 2 killer. Cardiovascular disease directly correlated to environmental toxins, because what did we go over? Cesium-137 loves cardiac tissue. So do other heavy metals. And they disrupt cardiovascular function. They cause damage to your endothelial lining. The endothelium of your vascular system is the small lining of your arteries where nitric oxide and everything's done. When you have damage to that area, you have inflammation that starts, or the negative inflammation from heavy metals will damage the endothelial lining, which then causes plaque buildup. It's not cholesterol that causes these problems. It's the heavy metals that cause the negative inflammation, that damage your arteries, that cause the cardiovascular issues. So you can see some of the data there. There's only a couple pages worth. COPD, same thing. You look at circulatory heavy metals, cadmium, lead, mercury, chromium. We can go down even more. So we look at diabetes. Diabetes is one of the top of the list for people today. And we can look at heavy metals in those areas, dyslipidemia, eye health. So there's a philosophy in the detox space called the detox triangle, which pertains to the smallest vascular function in the body, which is eyes, ears, and erectile function. And that's where you start to see degradation early a lot of times. So when you think that your vision getting bad and your hearing getting bad is part of the aging process, it's not. It's damage from heavy metals and environmental toxins that are building up in those areas that inhibit proper function. So the degradation of your vision or your hearing, in men, it's selective. Our hearing is selective. Women, we just won't hear you. But if it's actual physical trait, the most common culprit in that is the heavy metals. You can see those. Look, 3 toxic heavy metals in open angle glaucoma with low teen and high teen intraocular pressure. Glaucoma and heavy metals. Food for thought. Fibromyalgia, chronic fatigue syndrome. Same. Your gut health. Heavy metals destroy your microbiome in your gut, but so does glyphosate. And if you haven't watched the interview that was done with Dr. Don Huber, watch it. It'll explain glyphosate. It's bad. You can look at lupus. You can look at hypertension. Kind of a big deal. Hypertension is quite common in people. Why? Because we're freaking polluted. Obesity. Same way. Osteoarthritis. Parkinson's disease. How about stem cell function? Stem cells are becoming a big thing. You look at the issues with maternal, peripheral, and cord blood samples identified, right? You think cord blood is good. Stem cell companies want cord blood. Well, cord blood is completely freaking polluted. It's loaded with heavy metals and other environmental toxins. So we can go down. We look at thyroid function, right? Your thyroid function is a big thing seen today. So this gives you a synopsis that all of the symptoms that your doctor is telling you that you might have, they don't talk about cause. They're not taught to look at cause. They're taught to look at symptoms and make a diagnosis. So it's these guys that are the cause of the problem, but they're not just in your gut. They're not in your kidneys and liver. They're in your brain. They're everywhere. So you have to use something that can get into your body, into your brain, cross cellular membranes, get into your organs, through your organs, and out of your body. This is the most crucial component. And this is not something that you do for a short period of time. True systemic detoxification is something you're going to do for the rest of your life. Because here's the key. You might effectively clean out what you have currently, which theoretically is impossible. I don't think you can ever get everything out of our systems because there's some stuff that is just stored. But on a daily basis, you're going to be exposed to more environmental toxins, more heavy metals, more glyphosate, more PBEs, PBDEs, fire retardants, all these other chemicals. You're exposed to them daily. So the one thing, if you had to do one thing for your health and wellness, and you could only buy one supplement, I would say get the one thing that removes the heavy metals and toxins systemically. Me personally, I would use Clean Slate. Just saying. But if you can, get this stuff out systemically. If you don't believe me, do some research, ask some questions, and you'll be on your way. Have a great day.